you very much for the introduction. And as we're setting it up, I just wanted to say thank you very much for Mate Olilo's board's members' invitation for this talk. I'm their advisor, and I witnessed the whole process of events coming together during board meetings and the wonderful conferences they just organized in the past weekend, and multiple workshops and social hours. There's a lot of hard labor into the organization, as well as mind power to make this whole Mate Olilo as a student organization function so powerfully within our department, across department, and on campus. So this talk actually was inspired or initiated by a board meeting that we had when they were talking about the student-led development event. And the members were thinking about having a table or a presence to recruit more students, or at least make Mate Olilo known to the campus. So then I have a question. I had a question that was how do we approach students that are not interested in languages or do not have any background in additional languages, right? So, and what can we offer from a point of view that language can be at work for all students, right? So this is the conversation comes in when I discussed a little bit about languaging and translanguaging, and they said, well, why did you give a talk? So this is the little bit background how this talk became the webinar series, one of the webinar series. Okay, so I just wanted to give a little bit, perhaps some briefs on ecolinguistic recent developments. In our department, probably when you hear about ecolinguistics, you think of Dongping. But I have offered several seminars since I came here since 2009, I think at least 5 or 6. But the work is mainly focused on Leo Van Leer's work on educational linguistics from social, cultural, ecological view. But the field has gone so exponentially increasing in the scholarship. I will just introduce these 2 articles and provide some data to show how the ecolinguistics as a field evolves in the last decade also. So the 2 recent publications by Sune Stephenson, who is also the editor-in-chief of Language Sciences. So in Stephenson's view, the state-of-art ecolinguistics was conceptualized in 2014, which is arguably still the most recent attempt at providing an overview of the field, and is still most cited journal article on ecolinguistics. I just looked it up. It now has 581 citations. So according to their research, you can see the data on here from 1987, when the field ecolinguistics was proposed by Haugen. 1987 2013, there are only 281 publications. However, from 2014 to 23, about 9 years, there are 1,175 publications on ecolinguistics. Yeah, and this is one of the maps that was created by VOS Viewer using bibliometric research method. It's very powerful, very cool research methods. You can see there are 2 heated spots. One focused on so-called ecolinguistics, and this part focused on more on language ecology. And what does it mean? So language ecology, yeah, the map shows basically, again, 2 poles, right? So there are very little intersection between those 2, as you can see. But the 2 poles of the networked terms pivoting on ecolinguistics, that you can see the main keyword for ecolinguistics are, for example, sustainability, climate change, critical discourse analysis, and there's also discourse analysis, which we are familiar in our field. Harmonious discourse analysis, framing, for those of you who know, this belongs to mainly Aaron Stevie's work when he did his first book on a new story we live by creating a new environmental saturated field in language sciences. And corpus linguistics in here. On this side, words that are familiar to us are language planning, language ideology, multimodality, agency, language use, right? This is teacher education. World English is language education, translanguaging. You see, there's a polarization of these of these two fields. So, yeah, linguistics from understanding and study of the maps, Sunil Stephenson basically conclude that ecolinguistics now is united around literal ecosystems, which our life depends on. So on which side? Left side. On the left side of the map, it focuses on the study of language and its integral role to environment and social surroundings. It's not about language ecology within. So there is an outreach of language and its extension to environments, to social ecology. Yeah, so and I will give a little bit history of the ecolinguistics as a field. In the before 2024, the field is usually, say, we have two poles of ecolinguistics. One is based on Haugen's perspectives, which is using language ecology metaphorically, and Halliday's perspective on how environment and climate processes can shape language and how we can directly influence environment by how we say things. So there is a reciprocality, bidirectional, already in Halliday's perspectives. So these historically are 2 points of view. But I recall the state of the art article by Stephenson and Phil. They proposed 4 views. So these 4 views, those who have taken my ecolinguistic seminar class are familiar with. We read this state of art article, and we are familiar with some of these. So the symbolic ecology of language mainly deals with multilingual matters, how we look at language studies where 2 or 3 languages are being used. And there's a social cultural ecology of language, attend to educational social processes, including questions about planning and language learning. So those who are interested in social cultural perspectives, such as Vygotsky, and how learning not only in the process of our brain, but also what is happening surrounding us, whether it is social culture or ecology, belongs to this ecology. And then there is a natural ecology of language. So this study is mainly focused on, falls back on Halliday's systemic functional approach to highlight the negative effects of entanglement of language and ecosystems. Basically, when you say climate warming, or global warming versus climate change. So we tend to say climate, we tend to avoid, now we don't hear much of discourse on climate change, but we hear, no, hold on, I get confused. We don't say global warming per se, we tend to use climate change to avoid the negative effects of how climate really is changing, to disguise the real phenomenon what's happening in the environment. And Anthropocene's effect on the environment as well. So, and then the 4th ecology on the ecology, cognitive ecology. So how language affects human agents in ways that have that environmental implications. Again, this is related to how we think about something, how we consume certain goods have also an effect. They impact our cognition. So these are the 4 ecologies, still state of the art. And you can see this map produced by Stephenson's work on demarcation of ecolinguistics. There are basically 3 areas. This one on the natural ecology, then cognitive ecology. And this one on the social cultural ecology. You can see some names that we're familiar with. Cromash's work and Leo van Leer's work. And this one basically on the symbolic ecology, mainly study within language, the ecology of language ecology, as they say. And this map, I just want to show you because I found my name on it. Here. Again, if you read the article, the map doesn't show all the authors, but it shows the heated area. The redder means the more concentration and numbers of publication. Also, author A and B, they link to each other. But it shows polarization again. This side on the ecolinguistics per se, and this side is more diverse in terms of language ecology, I think. No, so hold on. This side is on ecolinguistics, and this side is more on the language ecology. Yes. Okay, so this map is also over the poles of the 2 sides. All right. So then, what is ecolinguistics based on this review? Sune Stephenson uses Stevie's strategy to understand ecolinguistics. The impact of language on life-sustaining relationships among humans, other organisms, and physical environment. So not within language ecology, such as textual analysis per se, but there is an interactivity among humans, other organisms, broadly defined, animals, plants, trees, ocean life, you name it, and the physical environment. Has to be physical environment. This is the physical environment, right? This room is a physical environment. Sometimes we say, oh, classroom learning is not authentic. That's not true. It's authentic. It just has its own features and affordances. So is our physical environment. But the ecolinguistics study more the outside of the physical environment have an impact on language. And the little strand that you just see from Van Leer's point of view, and sometimes my work, we consider this environment as a built environment. It's also physical, and how can we look at the social affordances of such institutional environments on impact on language and learning. Yeah. So again, ecolinguistics is irreducible to social construct. We say social environments, but it's irreducible. It's not just about social. It's not just a reservoir of discourses and narratives. Rather, it's a way of living in and with ecologically salient environment. It's a lived experience in placed environments, in languaged environments. And languages is integral to living and ecology. So what does it mean in practice? Now let's look at another piece of major publication, also occurred in 2024 by Stephen Cowley on ecolinguistics in practice. So this is the article that is pivotal, and there are numerous publications before this point. But this one, you can see the relationship between ecolinguistics and languaging and translanguaging. And this is, I draw the ecolinguistic research and then lead to the conceptualization of languaging and how it is impactful to my course design and my core work of my research agendas as well. So it starts with that we are, okay, let me just read it. Most we today focus on life-sustaining relationships between living beings. So then we as ecolinguists can ask how natural innovation, pay attention to natural innovations, contributes to the looping of languaging agency and practice. So to Stephen Cowley, these three things, languaging, agency, and practice, they are ever forming a loop. Whenever we cut one piece, there's still a loop, right? My students 2000 in 250 we read his article. 200 level they read this article. It's quite amazing. They understand it better than I do. Okay, so again, just think about the earthworm, right? When you cut it, it's still alive. It's a holistic relationship among languaging, agency, and practice. So in the ecosphere, everything, how the earth sustains us is because we have things happen. That's why the living systems have their own organisms and biologies. And what do we learn from the organisms and their biologies? From our language science field, from applied linguistics, from second language studies, right? So Stephen further suggests that if we find our experiences and what is happening outside the world, whether it's biology or organisms, when things happens or things are when we call it happenings, language comes in. That's why he called it enlanguaged world. It has to be situated in place in the biological sphere, in the organism's embodiment, but however you want to imagine it. As a matter of fact, when you're sitting here listening to this, it's a type of languaging, but probably not as rich as you go outside doing something that is involved with other people and other things. Because now you're mainly using your visual perception and audio ability to try to understand. But when we are in the world, we are involved with material artifacts, things, environment, breezes, laughters, getting your hands mixed with dirt, everything, right? Imagine when you are outside, what's happening. So then wordings comes in to support that happening or make that happening more sustainable, because we're humans. Language is inherent, integrated in our biologies. And for this point, he stresses emplacement. Okay, so then there's also the new ecolinguistics, and essentially this is my work. I'm too shy or too humble as Chinese scholar, born in China, to claim as my work in terms of new ecolinguistics, but I was encouraged to do so. So then thank you for this opportunity to show this work. So in my view, because when we think about ecolinguistics happening outside, how the language shapes our view of the world, how we encounter the physical environment, and how physical environment can have an impact on us, how we language about that experience. But when it comes to learning, we still need all of this. For example, statistical learning, right? Entrenchment, keep adding it, just practicing those words. In ecolinguistics, it is called second order. We need skillful action, not just linguistic action. We need to be appropriate. We need to put ourselves out there to reach out or to keep silent at times. We also need skilled linguistic action, putting all that together so that we can have an environment to invite people in rather than to strive as a person alone. So it's creating this environment where things happening at the same time, not just individual to acquire language or knowledge. So I just wanted to put that work a little bit there. And then, okay, finally, languaging. What is languaging? How do we define languaging? It's full of words in here. By the way, translanguaging in the languaging view is, Li Wei couldn't define it any better, right? As assemblages of putting things together. different repertoires all at play in that particular emplaced moment in that in-language world. So languaging is not just ever ongoing dynamics of processing language, but languaging stresses what has happened right here now. And we can understand right here now when I'm languaging about this talk, things happen at different rate and integrate different parts of me, part of history that I learned about ecolinguistics, who I am as a person, where I'm coming from, my identity, my work, all at this moment where languaging, meaning is not just producing language, but we are languaging. So it's embedded, it is multi-scaled, right? There are different social cultural layers, different biological layers, and different identity layers, all happening at the same time. That's why when we speak in a second language, it's a highly cognitive laden task and social laden task. It's not that easy. It's very tiring actually to speak a second language at the speed and make sure everything appropriate, not even mention grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, blah, 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 you name it, right? So, and that's languaging, focusing on this multi-scaled moment where everything is happening. Okay, so how does language work for language learning? Again, these concepts comes in, I need to look at my time. So in the language, so Stephen Cowley's stress in language world, what does it mean? So in language world, to Stephen Cowley, there is no world that human inhabit that is not saturated with language. So everything when we talk about our world is an in-languaged world. That's why we can use languaging to bring life to some clusters of words that sometimes has no meaning to second language learners, right? So the wordings re-evoke the already lived events. The wordings are different from words. Wordings are emplaced in events, in practices. So when things were happening, when somebody said something, you said, can you bring that piece of stone? I'm thinking about Michael's data when those kids working in the fish pond, right? So when the kids are cleaning the fish pond, when they're doing something, our farmers project, when they're working around to pay attention to the farm, they are languaging with the world. When somebody said something that, oh, this is what it means. So it's basically matched what they said, and which implies meaning in what they do. The words reinforce what they're understanding and what they want to communicate. So when it happens in the real world, it's very powerful because the wordings re-evoke the lived events. That's why language is so important. We can use this perspective, reach as all the people on campus if we have that power and manpower, right? So I won't give it too much of the theoretical view here because I have further slides that is made by my 250 students. Okay, I'll start from here. So my 250, which is a class called, what is it called? Languaging.
Learn to use second language.
Learn to use second language in languaging in the context of cross-cultural well-being. So when I introduced the concept of languaging, how can we use it to support multilingual well-being practices, what they do for their well-being, and how language can play a role in their well-being. So I have to introduce the concept of languaging, right? Connecting language studies with well-being is the goal of that course. So then I had them read the Ecolinguistic in practice. So this is what students come up. So they need to understand what is a language, in language the world, which I just talked about. They also learned emplacement, meaning things happen in place, right? Also practices. Why practices is important? Because while doing things, it prompts us to think about, what do I know? What skill do I have? How do I do this? How do I say this? In doing practices. Practice is so important because it's social culturally entrenched. So we have to say something appropriate, say something that has meaning to other multilingual partners. If I say something in Chinese and nobody understands in Chinese, probably there is no meaning for them. So I have to translate language and explain what that means in the Chinese context. I'm just throwing in there, for example, right? Practices also rely on Pennycook's work on semiotic assemblages. On our field, we know Pennycook's work, right? So semiotic assemblages, I have another slide for it. Okay. All right, so let's move on to next one. One of the interesting concepts that introduced by the ecolinguistic in practice is powers and soft powers. And then ask students, why not focus on skills or competencies, right? Because in our field, we tend to say linguistic competency, cross-cultural competency, or skills, using language skills. But powers and soft powers, I think, is one level, looking at languaging as a multi-scaled, coordinated activity, right? So powers, I think, is one level beyond skills or competencies, because powers can integrate who we are as a person. As a person, when we do something, a personalized certain behavior, right? So when Asia is doing something, same thing, then it's different from Ayano. When I do something, same thing, same event, but I give it my flavor. Asia gave it her flavor, right? Penny gave it to her flavor. That's the soft powers come in. That's what Stephen's Cowley. It's basically when we talk about identity, our social cultural backgrounds, our physiological energy, all of that comes together, that can be renamed as powers rather than just skills, because there's the embodiment, personalization process. And we, in our field, I think we talk about as well, just we have second language acquisition, second language use. We don't put them together per se to educate our language learners to develop their powers. Yeah. Okay, so then there's a semiotic assemblages. All right, so semiotic assemblages. What do we say about semiotic assemblages? Interact with casual and natural innovations, linking material and cognitive change. Through language interaction, people achieve understanding while also transforming ourselves. Again, this semiotic assemblages, putting all things together when we are placed in the language world. This is what happens when language comes in, not as a single pronunciation or semantics or grammar per se. It comes together. Yeah. So that learning and reading are not mechanical anymore, but processes of embodying act, of effort after meaning. So then this really applies to how I look at my course design. I try to create environments so that students can have the opportunity to look for meaning rather than receiving knowledge. Of course, receiving knowledge is embedded in the meaning, after meaning, effort after meaning. Okay, so now I just turn into 218. I won't say too much about 218, but let Selena to talk about her experience. 218 title is Introduction to Second Language Learning and Technology. It's both writing intensive and diversification in social sciences. How do we connect Writing is easy, right? But how do we connect the social science diversification for language learning course? And this is where languaging comes in terms of helping students developing their soft powers, utilizing language skills and at the same time other skills or powers to do something for themselves or for the community. And for this course, I happen to have a collaboration with the colleague Tao from CTAR, CTAR Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, their Seed of Wellbeing projects. So their projects mainly introducing Hawaiian farmers and document their farming process, their hard work to help Hawaii to develop sustainability of food resources if something happens in the world. It's very, very important work. So when I saw this opportunity, I said, well, have you studied or documented any farmers that have linguistic diversity? They said, no. I said, okay, this is our opportunity to come in, that our students can reach out those farmers who have linguistic diversities. Yeah. So here we go. I want to show you the activities just a little bit, which is in here. Yeah. So before that, there are tons of things to do because we have to, when we go to the real farm, we have to train students to be ready to document using video cameras. So they have to write philosophy of their videos. We have to develop concept forms, interview questions, working with the library on the learnable technologies, cameras, and SIM card, and CLT for equipments, video production, editing workshops, field trips, translation, interpretation to La Tagalog, Ilocano. Again, when I'm saying this, it sounds so simple, but this is tons and tons of coordination, collaboration with multiple community members, and students reach out their family members as well to have farms for us to work with. But these are the full document. I don't know, it's grayed out. It has.
You should be able to click it.
Yeah, because it says using my significant memory. Okay, I'll show you a little later if you have questions on the full document. But again, for this class, similar to 250, this is languaging is introduced to help them to understand why going to help the farms having their voice through video camera, through video production is languaging, is also second language learning. So I have to introduce the concept of languaging. And why does it matter? Why languaging matters, right? So when they interview the ethnic farmers, they need to observe both what they say and what they express through actions, emotions, and gestures, because some of them speak English, sometimes they have to express in their home languages. And listening beyond words help them understand their deeper values and contributions to the community. Yeah. All right, so Selena, are you ready? So this is another aspect of course design that we don't have time for that. So I will just introduce Selena here. Yes. Selena is the student who took 218 last semester. Seems a long time ago. And she's one of the students opened her home, her farm to us. And I'll let you to talk the rest of it. And since she claimed SLS as her minor, from the tourism is her major. Okay? Yeah. Okay.
Hello everyone, I'm Selena Vixawong. I am a major in travel industry management, and from this class actually I took a minor in second language studies. It was a very impactful class, as you can tell. Through I think Professor Dongfing's work, I realized how important languaging could be, so I utilized this during this project as well.
Click, where is it?
Oh, through her laptop.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are some visuals of the project. I'll introduce my dad in this corner. These are the beautiful pictures Dongping took while on the farm at the site, which is my farm, my home. What's it called? At first, I did just try to do it as a writing intensive, but later I realized how important languaging could be and the importance of communication, and that's why I decided to do a minor in second language studies. What I found most interesting, I guess my biggest takeaway from this project was the informal and formal uses of languaging, just not only through speaking, but through movement, emotion, and shared understanding. This class taught me that languaging isn't just a system of words, it's something living and how we can co-act, connect, and become with others. So as Dongping mentioned, along with the farmers, I had the opportunity to highlight my dad as one of the farmers. I won't lie, I was really, really nervous about it at first, just because coming from a family that doesn't really use the senses or like love languages as like, speaking, verbalizing like I love you and all that. I was really scared how he was going to communicate and if he could communicate correctly with students, especially. Growing up in a small town, Waimanalo, it's kind of sheltered and I only had my farm as my own. So I didn't really have much people coming to it. So this was really out of my comfort zone and allowing myself to share this part of my community with this community that I'm just adjusting myself to. So yeah, most intimate class I've been in, it's the most smallest class. And we had the opportunity to kind of form groups of editing, filming, and I think I was part of the narrative team. I was really, really nervous when I had to pick up everybody to meet here to bring them to my farm. I think like that was like the most stressed I've ever been so far. Just because I don't know, just again like bringing that this class of all of us up there to my farm. I was really nervous how they react. If my dad would I'd only told him like I think a week of that we're gonna have all these people come to our house and we're gonna film you and then I really want you to tell her story because I think his story is so unique where he was a Lao immigrant. He had to provide and work for his family, his parents, my grandparents had a farm up in down Waimanalo. They lived in town. He would go every day after school to work at this farm. And then really learning that, I never really had the opportunity to learn his past, his upbringing, and what he did before I was alive. So this was a great opportunity for me to figure that out and also share that with the rest of the world, or my class especially, to start with. And seeing him light up from all of those experiences really kind of shaped how I really want to kind of highlight other stories in the role of storytelling. And yeah, so yeah, I talked about farming as both his survival and community. He created this space, I would say, at this farm. Dongping kind of highlighted it when we were there, but I didn't really pay attention to it as much because I was really trying to focus on his role as a farmer. But we took some pictures over here, or Dongping took pictures of our backyard, or it's kind of a place of community where he would host parties. My mom is a very host person. She likes throwing these things, fundraising for temples up in Laos to make sure we give back and always give back. And I didn't really see the importance of it now, but relating to the work that we're talking about today is like really creating that space and highlighting those stories. And then I guess my role as a communicator, I think all of our roles as a communicator is trying to like really read the room and translate. Not only was I a translator for my dad to my classmates, but also trying to read the room and make sure we're all being as respectful as we could be. And I appreciated that we did sign like these like kind of waivers, really highlighting and exaggerating that we are going into a space where people might not be comfortable and really having that open eye to be that person. And I'll just read my part because I think I'll just go on and on. But looking back, I realized this project embodied everything that Professor Zhang has been teaching: the soft powers through care, co-action, and collaboration, and human becoming through shared experiences. It reminded me that learning not only happens in the classroom, but in these moments of genuine interaction, connection, where language, emotion, and environment all can come together. When can you say you went to a farm in Waminalo for a class project, you know? And I'm truly grateful for this experience, for allowing me to be up here talking to you guys, as well as Dongping, for everything, my classmates, my dad, and for the opportunity to continue to share this story. And it really showed me how communication, when done with intention and compassion, can create something much bigger than ourselves. And it's all rooted in our care, community, and becoming. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Selena. Thank you. We'll save the Q&A at the end. And next, I'd like to introduce Ava. Look at this picture. Can you guess who Ava is? We are in week 8, so this is our current class. Ava is in 250.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll allow you to introduce yourself, and thank you for making your time to come.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Ava Burke. I'm currently a student in Second Language Studies 250, and today I'm going to be sharing my experience. When I signed up for this course, I had absolutely no idea what it was. And it wasn't until about a week in I realized how influential and beneficial it would be in my life. I thought that we would focus on language teaching methods and how second language can be used in everyday life. And although that is true, I quickly learned that it is much more than that. We explore how language is tied to identity, culture, and society, and how it's not just something we use, but something we do. One topic we studied that deeply resonates with me is language disparity, how some languages and ways of speaking are valued more than others, and how that can affect people's mental health and the opportunities that they're offered. I personally connected to this topic because I grew up attending a French immersion school in Seattle, Washington, coming from an all English-speaking family. Lots of my childhood years were spent in silence and isolated due to a language barrier, and I couldn't speak to my peers, I couldn't make any friends, and it is this experience that taught me the value of language, how it can be the most important tool of connection and also the harshest method of exclusion. Second Language Studies speaks of experiences like mine throughout the entire world. It makes you think more critically about power and inequality in everyday communication. We also explore the idea that languaging, the act of using language, is not just about communication, but it's a meditational and everyday process. It becomes a way of thinking, learning, reflecting, and being. Throughout language, people don't just express themselves, they actively shape their identities, their realities, their relationships, and the spaces that they inhabit. One concept that stood out to me was the idea of wandering without a destination, also known as Chow Yao Yu. In contrast to the constant push in our society to constantly be achieving our goals and moving and stay busy, this idea invites us to pause. We learned how the pressure to always do can lead to burnout, something I've experienced as well as the entire rest of the world. Many of us are so focused on chasing success that we forget to pause and ask ourselves what it is we're truly chasing, what it is that we truly want. We act just to keep moving. This class reminds us that slowness, stillness, and reflection are not signs of weakness, but essential parts of growth. Taking time to breathe and intentionally using language to process experience is not only valuable, but necessary. As a student, I've used the practices that we've used in class. We have meditations and using language and meditations to ground myself. And I now use them when I feel overwhelmed, and they help me feel aligned with my goals academically and also personally. Taking the second language studies class has been one of the most meaningful academic experiences that I've had. It pushed me to think beyond language as just words or grammar, syntax, and instead see it as something living, something that shapes who we are, how we connect, and how we move through the world. I came into this course with one understanding of language, and I will be leaving with a completely new one. As future leaders, we need to be equipped with the tools to communicate more meaningfully, connect with others, and understand ourselves better. That is exactly what this class provides. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva. All right, you notice she is currently holding Miss Hawaii U.S. International as her title. So proud of you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I wanted to do a little bit of 250 course overview before I move to Mate Aulelo. So the course is designed in a way that first 8 weeks we're doing readings, reading connection, different dimensions, aspect of well-being. And students take the reading into their personal practices of well-being practices and write about it, integrate their in-place practices and write about how the readings affect their well-being practices and the changes they may observe, right? So that's connecting of languaging and well-being. Then from next week on, we're moving towards the project, which is doing data collection, doing interview of the community members, work as a group to identify problems in the community that they can help with. Again, the project-based learning turns students into information receiver, knowledge builder to somebody who can contribute to the community. Through the contribution, learning occurs, right? It's not like they come in without being equipped, but they're equipped with soft powers, the power of language and power of who they are, what they learn in this class, and going in and become contributors of their community. And give so much voice and power. I hope, as the 218 students have just shared, Selena has shared. Okay, so if you're interested, these are all linked. I have linked to my documents, to the course project. The course syllabus. These are prompts in here. And these prompts I developed at the beginning. I have them write their personal practices and incorporate readings and putting all these together, not just personal narratives, but informed by the perspective they gain from reading and from class. And later on, we have AHIMI students came in. We do lots of exchanges through Zoom. It's a whole nother ecology. So then I start thinking maybe they should reflect on these exchanges rather than the well-being. They did 4 weeks of well-being practices. So they wrote, my gosh, some students wrote 1,000, 2,000 words. I was reading and reading because, writing intensive altogether, how many words? 4,000 words. So I divide them, each journal just 70 words. Nope, 1,000 words. And they started talking to me. I was really feel so honored being my Chinese. I feel honored students open up to share their personal stories with me. It was very powerful. So the course is not just for them, it's for myself as well. Yes, and that's the powerful message there, I think. All right. So moving on to the Mate Aulelo. Okay, I talk about the genesis of this talk and the invitation. I'm moving to next one, and this is from their slides. They, Michael and Milan and Jue just presented on Saturday last week. So they use a little method to narrate the interviews of the members of Mate Olelo organization. And mainly their story is through the organizers of Mate Olelo, they transform Mate Olelo from phase 1 to phase 4, changing from just changing the text of our research into a more of a simpler summary to community outreach. So if you're interested in this work, talk to Michael and talk to Milan and the board. And this paper is being published, right? Yes. So then this pragmatic shift from just organizing text, make it simpler, disseminate to the world of language teachers or language consumers, they are becoming more of proactive in terms of the mission of Mate Olelo. So they are building it towards a translingual, transdisciplinary, multimodal, bidirectional ways of research community. Right, so they have done multilingual conversation, interdepartmental social events, as we mentioned at the beginning. They have done material development event, doing video production workshops to help students to see the possibility and affordance of video for disseminating information and knowledge. And they are also grounded in serving local community. Teacher-researcher listening session that happened last Friday evening, right? Friday afternoon. All right. So they're moving away from the idealistic orientation towards a more practical role, emphasizing service to students and practitioners of his own community. How can this vision being more amplified? So this is what my thinking languaging can help a little more, and just one approach, right? There are multiple ways of collective creativity here that can be accounted for. Right, so this is my thinking. Remember, we talk about in language world, these concepts in language cognition, emplacement, things happen at place where language, where wordings are revoked, our past memories are who we are, and all the grammar and the stuff we learned 涌现出来 in Chinese, emerging at that particular nonce event. I didn't explain that nonce events. And sometimes we throw things at students and they say, they're not prepared. And this is happening right now with AHEMI students, because on Thursday I started, okay, instead of doing just small group member exchange, why not having different modalities of discussion? I think some students are not prepared. Some students are like, okay, let's try it. So life throw at us of these nonce events. Things just happen. This is where our language students had the most difficulties, right? We learned all these tests, all these exams. Once we get into the real world, we're tongue-tied. We don't know what to say, how to act it. So when in a mistake-friendly environments that I try to create in the classroom, students feel free, be themselves, and they can make mistakes. They can try and do things that not being judged, right? So in this safe environments, placed with language resources, they can start to feel what the real world feels like. So I'm thinking maybe doing more of this indigenous practices. We have Hawaiian way of learning, Filipino, name it. This is the rich place in ethnic practices. Chanting, dancing, etc. All of these activities evoke in language cognition, in placement, social semiotics, assemblages, practices, and self-power, etc. As long as we're doing things in place, in practice. And language is important. Remember the model of skilled linguistic action, statistical learning. Through doing all these things, make connections, and it connects to their neurons as well. So then it helps students and practitioners to language is key in the practices. Without practices, there's no language either. So practice and language go together like this. So they learn how to say, so in these practices, they learn how to say, what to say, to whom, whence, and where. Everything happens. In Chinese, 时间、地点、人物、事件, time, locale, people, and events. We say that all the time, 时间、地点、人物、事件, when you are writing. All of these are involved. So language, this is my writing. Language carries power. I think there's Hawaiian saying very similar to this. Language carries power, energy, wisdom. It can kill, it can recreate, it can open and shut a world. It can change our environment, and it can revitalize a tradition. And the final transformation is from Queen Liliuokalani. You read this before, but let's read it together. You want to read aloud? Read it together? Yeah, in my 250 class, we read aloud. It's a method to connect our materiality of our mouth to sound. Okay? 1, 2, 3. I could not turn back the time for the political change, but there is still time to save our heritage. You must remember to never cease to act because you fear to fail. The way to lose an earthly kingdom is to be inflexible, intolerant, and prejudicial. Another way is to be too flexible, tolerant of too many wrongs, and without judgmental at all. It is a razor edge. It is the width of blade of pilly grade. To gain the kingdom of heaven is to hear what is not said, to see what cannot be seen, and to know the unknown. Aloha. Auntie Pilahi. This is cited in Le and Xing's article that we read in 250. This is very powerful. I think this summarizes today's talk so well. Hawaiian words have 3 interpretations. Michael, please say this for me in the right pronunciation. Ho'opukaku means literal meaning. Kauna, symbolic meaning. And nohuna, esoteric or spiritual meaning. Right? So that most people get the first 2. But usually it's our kahuna get to the esoteric and spiritual one. So I would advocate we should also learn the spiritual aspect, what is not said in language. Thank you very much.